So we met a fellow here named Michael, and he was traveling with his daughter. He actually lives in the U.S. with his daughter and his son. And he, as a child, grew up in this part of Italy, and he actually lived in the old town of Matera for, I believe, about 1 to 2 years. And he moved here in the early 60s because at the time they were going through this government program, I guess you could call it, where people were actually encouraged to move out of the old city. And in order to move out of the old city, people were actually moving in to get the benefits of moving into a better place in the outskirts of the more modern city of Matera.
Yeah, because there was no water, no gas, no any type of, necessities you would want to get here. So, and people live with donkeys.
And people lived with donkeys. So, and the reason for that is they had a number of farm animals usually, but the donkey was actually one of the more important animals. I don't know exactly why, but I do know that they were used for transportation. So a lot of these people in the old city used to work on the farms, and those farms were often like a 2 or 3 hour
ride from here.
Ride from here by donkey, and so the donkeys were really important. People were also paranoid that their farm animals might be stolen or their donkey might be stolen because they were so valuable, so they actually lived with their farm animals in the same living quarters. So these caves, when you go into these cave houses, almost all of them that I've seen have an alcove where there's a place for the donkey, maybe the chickens, maybe a pig or two. And so it was actually really insanitary or unsanitary living conditions, which is why the government began this move of people out of the old city to give them more healthy living environments.
And they carry malaria.
Right, the donkeys also were big carriers of malaria, and people didn't really know that until later on, when it was too late. And these cave homes are actually pretty small in comparison with the families that lived there. So we've heard of families.
Purple flower. I got a purple flower.
You got a purple flower?
I got it.
Oh no.
We've heard of families, being up to even 10 people. So, 2 parents and 8 kids. Even though the infant mortality rate was pretty high, I think it was 50%, but people had a lot of kids in these homes. And they were probably not much bigger than, a 1 or 2 room apartment that you might see today, like a studio apartment. But they had essentially a kitchen that was carved out of the side of the room. They had several things that they would use as beds, although, they were like cribs and things that doubled as like a sofa or a chest of drawers.
There's a flower right here.
Oh, you found some flowers. All right. And
we'll show a video.
Yeah, we'll show some videos of that. But yeah, it was just a really interesting thing to actually meet someone who lived here and could kind of tell us about what life was like the in those days when Matera was it was called the shame of Matera, or the shame of Italy. Now it's called the miracle of Matera because of how it's transformed. A lot of these cave homes have been turned into restaurants and hotels and Airbnbs and so forth, so it's become a really popular tourist destination.
This unique place, entitled Volta, meaning once upon a time, uses furnishings and sculptures to portray and illustrate life in the home in Matera up until the end of the 60s. As you can see, the room is dug out of the calcareous rock. The only part which is built is the entrance where there is the door, which allowed a little air to circulate as well as the window. The door in this case was the only opening which let in light. The skilled craftsmen have created works of art which are represented by the unique sculptures in tuff that symbolize in part the crafts, trades and life in the Sassi of Matera. These works of art have been arranged inside the dwelling as they were in the past. The facial expressions, fixed emotions and suffering seem to recount a way of life from the past. On the left, next to a man sitting at the table, we can see the mouth of a cistern which provided the family with rainwater thanks to an important system of outside underground channels. There are no springs in the Sassi because the city stands on a rocky karst area called the Murgia Plateau. Again, by the mouth of the well, we can see the head of the family after a hard day's work. Little squares, known as the vicinati, were areas that were shared with other families. In the stall, besides the animals, we can also see a chest of drawers that was used as a bed. The mattress was filled with corn leaves. Beds here were often makeshift. In the past, families were extremely large. On average, they had about 6 to 8 children, despite the high infant mortality rate. In the middle of the house, we can see a small table with a single large plate. The table wasn't usually very big, almost symbolizing the rare moments it was used by the family for their only meal of the day. If you look at the various characters around the room, you will notice that some of them represent the customs and traditions of the past. This unique world, filled with life's hardships because of the unhealthy rooms dug out of the rock, where people lived in conditions of extreme poverty, has gradually improved over the years.